All right. Good morning. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another live stream of Fast Break Bets presented by DraftKings Sportsbook on the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Before I get into my normal spiel, I do have some exciting news in that starting next week, we're actually going to be doing a Monday stream as well. So starting next week, day after the Super Bowl, we'll have streams Monday, Wednesday, Friday. It's going to be at the same time, same format at 11 a.m. But pretty cool that we're able to do a third stream. I only have you guys to thank for that. If nobody was tuning in, then we would not add another stream. So I appreciate from the bottom of my heart everybody who has been tuning in to these live streams, even though we've been on a little bit of a rougher stretch recently. But we came out of that on Friday. And yeah, very, very cool stuff that we were able to add another stream here. So again, thank you, everybody who's been tuning in here. If you're new, you're just hearing it now, but we're live going to be live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 11 a.m. Going through the entire NBA betting slate, coming up with at least 10 picks. So as for today, we have a 7-game slate. So going to have at least one pick for every game, and then a couple games with multiple picks. And we're going to have a total of 6.5 units risked as well, because I recently started adding half unit plays. I started adding leans as well. So with today, again, a total risk of 6.5 units. But as I mentioned, we finally had a good stream on Friday, which was very, very necessary. And sorry, if you see me looking over, it's just because I'm looking at the chat. I'm not getting distracted. Last Friday was great. We went 4-2 on our 6 picks. All of them were 1 unit plays. We were up 2.07 units from Friday's stream. Luckily, that brought us back into the green on the entire year. I think we're like 29 or 30 streams deep at this point. Maybe this is our 29th, something like that. Nice to be back in the green here. Very, very confident that the success we're going to have, or we're going to continue to have success. We had some brutal luck on some of those bad days, like multiple hooks, which is going to happen, of course, but eventually the luck was going to have to start swinging the other way. Let's hope that starts with this stream. On the entire year, just to go through the numbers real quick, we're up 1.01 units, ROI of 0.36%, but that's on almost 300 picks at this point. So it kind of makes sense with the lower ROI. Make sure to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel if you are not already. Make sure to share this link with your friends. So we added the Monday stream because of you guys. Let's see if we can add even more. And then, of course, you can find me on social media at my handle you see here at Jedi Modai, basically anywhere. And then the most important part, get all your questions, your comments, everything in the chat. Again, when I look over, it's just me looking at the chat. So Brian, what's up? Jim, let's roll. Steven, awesome for my Monday morning. No, thank you. Don't thank me. Thank you. This wouldn't be possible without people like you for tuning in. And yeah, great way to start the week to sweat out some bangers on a Monday. And then D Twisted G, what's up? All right, enough of that. Let's get into today's bangers. First up, Raptors versus Hornets. I'm taking Jakob Poeltl double-double. This is best offered at plus 185 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. This is just going to be a half unit play, more of a dart throw type thing. But I really do like this play. This was a play that I found using the Betting Pros app, the premium subscription, which we'll get into a little bit. They project Poeltl to score about 12 points, 11.9 to be exact, and just under 10 rebounds as well. So while they don't project him to have 10 rebounds, close enough that I think for the plus 185 odds, I think the value is pretty good. So what I did was just combine the two into a double-double to get, again, the juicy odds. Dex 1K, thanks for tuning in and commenting. The reason why we're on Poeltl double-double, it's just an awesome matchup for him and for basically all centers, both from a rebounding and a points perspective as well. The Hornets give up the second most points per game to someone of Jakob Poeltl's shooting profile, his scoring profile, and his playmaking style. All that's really telling you is that big men in the paint score a lot of points against the Hornets, which makes sense because if you just isolate the center position in general, the Hornets are giving up the most points per game to centers in the NBA. So check for that's like a check mark is what I'm doing here for the points. Now for the rebounding. The Hornets give up the sixth most rebounds per game to someone of Jakob Poeltl's rebounding profile. And then if you look at all ancillary other types of profiles like shooting, scoring, playmaking, they're top 5 in terms of most rebounds allowed. And then looking at centers, the Hornets are giving up the second most rebounds per game to centers in the entire NBA. So all that stuff kind of makes sense. The only team above them which we're going to get into later, are the Washington Wizards. Poeltl missed about a month due to an injury. I think it was a sprained ankle, if I remember correctly. He's since returned and played 3 games, and he's recorded a double-double in 2 of those 3 games. The only one he missed was his first game back, and he only played 20 minutes in that game, as my dog's barking in the background, if you can hear that. Since his first game back, when he only played 20 minutes, A, he has recorded a double-double in both of those games, and B, has played 33 and 28 minutes. So I'm very confident that Poeltl's going to play 30-plus minutes in this one against a skeleton crew of the Hornets. He should have a good game and hopefully can get us 10 and 10. And hey, if it comes from assists, that would be great. I'm not expecting that, but that would be crazy. Either way, I'm very confident. Love the double-double play for Jakob Poeltl. That's our first play. Next up, this is in the Cavaliers versus Wizards game. Donovan Mitchell over 6.5 assists. This is at plus 140 odds per DraftKings. At least that's where I was able to lock it in at. Obviously, on the screen here, you will see the updated odds for Donovan Mitchell and everything that DraftKings is offering. So if it does change a little bit, at least you can see live. So generally, with these picks, what I like to do is fade recent results. Now, I didn't do that with the Jakob Poeltl play, and I'm not doing that with this Donovan Mitchell one either. So going a little bit against my my strategy, which I prefer recently. But Mitchell, there's a reason for that. Let me start. And Mitchell has just been on fire from an assist perspective, and that's important, right? He's cashed this over in 8 of his last 10 games, and in 2 of the games he missed, he had 6 against the Bucks and 5 against the Kings. So even in the 2 games he's missed, it's not like he totally dropped off the map in terms of his assists. Now, the reason why we are getting 6.5 and we're getting it for plus 140 odds in terms of the over, it's because Darius Garland is back for the Cavaliers. He's been back for 4 games now. They've been slowly increasing his minutes since he came back. But in the 4 games that Garland has returned, Donovan Mitchell has gone over this number in 3 of those 4 games. And in that 4-game stretch, he's averaging 12 potential assists per game as well. Now, again, I know that they're going to increase the minutes for Darius Garland, but I still think that this is just too low of a total for Donovan Mitchell, especially when you consider the plus 140 odds as well. You also have to look at the matchup, right? The Wizards, we've targeted them all year for guard assist props, and the Wizards are actually a better matchup for Donovan Mitchell's playmaking style than they are for Darius Garland. And that's why we are on Mitchell specifically, right? The Wizards are giving up the most assists per game to someone of Mitchell's playmaking style, and the second most assists per game to someone of his scoring profile. And then for context, if you match that up with Darius Garland, the Wizards are allowing the 6th most assists per game to someone of Darius Garland's playmaking style, and the 5th most to someone of his scoring profile. So yeah, it still does look good in a vacuum for Darius Garland. It looks a lot better for Donovan Mitchell. So for all those reasons, I think it's absolutely worth backing Mitchell to get to over 6.5 assists, especially for the plus money banger odds. Next up, our third pick of the day, and another one unit play, is Jarrett Allen over 11.5 rebounds. This is at minus 130 odds. That's offered per the Betting Pros consensus, or you can look on the screen here and see what DraftKings is offering as well. D Twisted G asking about Evan Mobley. He's going to play. I'm not a huge Mobley guy, and it doesn't really impact how I feel about honestly either of these plays, one way or another, whether Mobley plays his normal allotment of minutes or not. But this Jarrett Allen play, like if this game remains relatively close and Jarrett Allen has to play, 32 or more minutes, he's going to smoke this over. Like you could take an alternate line at like 15 plus. Not that we can confirm or like guarantee that he's going to play those minutes, but if he plays a normal allotment of minutes, he's going to crush this over. And even if in a blowout, he doesn't play his normal allotment of minutes, he could still cash this over for us. Now, this is a play where we're going back to our roots and we are fading recent results, right? Jarrett Allen has only hit this in 1 of his last 4 games. Prior to that, he had cashed it in 3 straight. So it's not like he had been consistently going under or anything like that. And over the past 10 games, looking at a 10-game sample size, he's had 12 or more rebounds in 5 of those 10 games. In 3 separate occasions, he had exactly 11 rebounds. So basically in 8 of 10, he's hovering right around the number that we need him to get. And as I hinted at earlier, the only team worse than the Hornets in terms of center rebounds and how much they give up to centers are the Wizards, right? They do a horrible job guarding the interior. they give up, the Wizards, the most rebounds per game to centers in the NBA by a wide margin too. There's a huge gap between them as the most and the Hornets as the second most. In 2 games against the Wizards this year, Jarrett Allen has had 19 and 12 rebounds. In both of those games, he played fewer than 30 minutes because of a blowout. So that's kind of what the point I was making here is that even if this game turns into a blowout, I'm still pretty confident that Jarrett Allen can get us to 12 plus rebounds, which is why I'm comfortable making this a 1-unit play. Again, even in the event that there is a blowout in Dex beating up on my Wizards, I'm actually from the DC area, so I know a lot of Wizards fans, and I beat up on them all the time. So I'm sorry to say that. It's one of my favorite pastimes is beating up on the Wizards. All right, we are 3 picks deep here. Before I get into my 4th one, which I love my 4th and 5th play, I want to talk to you about a 1-year premium subscription giveaway. So I hinted earlier about using the premium subscription to find the Jakob Poeltl double-double play. Well, if you want a chance to win a premium 1-year subscription to Betting Pros, it's a place where you can bet smart, not bet hard. All you need to do, all you need to do is comment on this video and then subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel. Hopefully you're already subscribed. If you are not already, please do so. And then comment on this video and you will be entered. Make sure to turn notifications on so you can be alerted when new episodes drop. You can come in and claim your prize. But 1-year premium subscription giveaway. Subscribe, comment, and there you go. So, all right, we're 3 picks deep. As I mentioned, I love my 4th and 5th play. They're both in the Hawks versus Celtics. The first one is going to be Trae Young, 4+ made 3-pointers, plus 130 odds. This is at DraftKings. This is a drum that I've been beating all year. But you want to take your point guard, both your point guard point props and your point guard 3-point props as well against the Celtics. And it's all because of their style of defense. So that was kind of a little bit of a tongue twister. I said point like 7 times in the last 30 seconds. But point guard, point props, point guard, 3-point props are a go against the Celtics defense, but a very specific type of point guard. And let me get into that. So the Celtics defense is very good, obviously very good. They allow 110, 100 points per game, something like that. Those points have to come from somewhere. And the majority of where those points come against are point guards against the Celtics, right? And it's all because of the style of defense that the Celtics play. They play a drop coverage with their big men. Now, their drop coverage is not super deep. It's not as deep as the Sixers, the Bucks, all these other teams. It's pretty high up because they have big men who can guard decently well on the perimeter, but they still play drop coverage. That means point guards who run a lot of pick and rolls can have a lot of success pulling up from deep, more so against the Celtics than most other teams. The Celtics give up, in terms of looking at the 3-point props, the Celtics are the 4th best matchup in the NBA when it comes to point guard 3-point props. That takes into account what the over-under is. So it's not just total given up. It's also relative to what the over-under is as well. Now, this next stat is just straight up per NBA.com. The Trae Young takes the second most pull-up 3-pointers in the NBA. He's second only to Luka Doncic with 6.6 attempts per game. Trae Young also runs the most pick and rolls per game in the NBA as well at 12.5 pick and roll possessions per game. So he runs a ton of pick and rolls. He takes a ton of pull-up threes. That's how you can score against the Celtics. In Trae's first game against the Celtics this year, he made 6 3-pointers. These 2 teams also played in the playoffs. Trae Young hit 4 or more threes in each of the last 3 games in the playoffs. Now, sometimes going back to the previous year doesn't always help, but this time it kind of does because it's the same coach, same style of defense for the Celtics. And just looking at Trae, he's been cooking overall. He's been playing really, really well. But what I like about that is he's been playing really well overall. He did miss this last game. So with 3-point props, I get the most nervous if someone's just been consistently crushing the over, because 3-pointers are like the most flip-floppy highs and lows, whatever you want to call it, stat in the NBA, right? Like you could go one day shooting 6 of 8. You can go the next day shooting 2 of 10. So the fact that he did miss it last game does make me more comfortable with this play, but I like it for the matchup. It makes sense, right? 4 of the last 5 point guards against the Celtics have cashed their over 3-point prop. That includes D'Angelo Russell, who made 4 on an over-under of 2.5. That's exactly what we're hoping Trae could do. Absolutely love this Trae pick. Next up, same game, same player. Trae Young, 30 plus points. DraftKings is giving this to you at plus 165 odds. And this is just going to be a half unit play, right? I know it's a little bit risky having two plays on the same exact guy. So if Trae sprains an ankle in the first minute, or if he just has an off game, I'm not screwed because we could still make it back in terms of profit with our later picks, but it would definitely hurt. But the opposite could happen as well. If Trae has a great game, it would really, really help us. And obviously, if I like Trae's three-pointers, it makes sense why we like his points in general as well. But in the off chance that Trae goes off for 30 or more points and it doesn't come from the three-point range, I did want to have something on his points as well. Trae's scored 30 or more points in 4 of his last 6 games. Again, he's just been on a tear recently. And Capella's out for the Hawks, and that actually is going to help, or that's actually going to hurt Trae's assists more than anything. It doesn't really impact his points. If anything, it actually helps his points. He scored 30 or more points in 8 of the last 15 games without Capella. Again, that also dates back to last year. And as I mentioned in the previous one, talking about his three-pointers, yes, Trae's made a ton of threes against the Celtics. He's also just scored a lot against the Celtics as well. He scored 30-plus points in 5 straight games against the Celtics. Again, that does date back to last year. So we're all in on Trae tonight. Let's hope he doesn't screw us, doesn't burn us. So we're halfway done. We're 5 picks deep. The perfect time to talk to you about the Betting Pros app, bettingpros.com/apps. I use the app a ton. I've already talked about how I use it. The prop bet cheat sheet is amazing. You can find Betting Pros recommended picks based on Betting Pros projections and then compared with the over-unders that the sportsbooks are offering. You can sort by highest percent of positive expected value. If you just want the highest EV plays, you can sort by that. You can sort by most likelihood of the play actually cashing. So if you're looking for like parlay pieces and stuff like that, that's how I recommend sorting by win percentage. And then you can also sort by the biggest difference between Betting Pros and what the sportsbook's over under is. That's where I find a lot of my pumped up props. Just, okay, where's the biggest gap between Betting Pros and the books? You can follow me and tail all my picks on the app as well, bettingpros.com/Modi. I already mentioned that you can get a 1-year premium subscription, or there's a giveaway for 1 year. For the premium subscription, you can also if you download the app, you can get access to a free trial of the premium offering as well. And then you can sync all your sports books, right? You don't have to manually track anything. You can sync all your books and it does all that information for you. So the app is awesome. Definitely recommend downloading it, bettingpros.com/apps. As I mentioned, we're halfway done with our 10 picks. Next up, we're taking, this is in the Spurs Heat game, I should say. Bam Adebayo, 20 plus points. DraftKings is giving this to us at plus 135 odds, and I'm just putting a half unit on this bad boy. Now, this is perfect timing because this was a play that I found using the Betting Pros app, right? I used it as a pumped up prop for the exact example I just gave out. So the positive EV play on this one is Bam over 17.5 points, right? If you just want to be safer, take his main line play at 17.5, you could do that. That is positive expected value. But Betting Pros projects Bam to score 21.3 points. So in my opinion, I think it will be more profitable in the long run to actually take the pumped up numbers and get them for juicier odds, right? Yes, you're going to hit at a lower rate, but you also can hit at a lower rate and still be profitable because of the plus money odds. Now, it's completely up to you guys. If you want to be safer and take the 17.5, that's totally fine. I'm not going to talk you out of it. Obviously, we're only going to track the official plays that we give out that you see in the comments, but there are multiple ways to go about this. And in terms of the matchup, it's going to sound like, oh, it's going to be really scary taking a center who doesn't have a great outside jumper against the Spurs with Wemby patrolling the paint. But the Spurs are actually not a good defense at guarding big men at all, especially as good as Wemby is. He's still pretty slight and he can get bullied in the post, or the Spurs defense is so bad around him that he just, like, if someone like a point guard, Tyler Hero, Terry Rozier, whoever, is able to draw Wemby away from Bam, that just leaves Bam open under the basket. And on the year, the Spurs are giving up the 3rd most points per game to centers in the entire NBA. You want to know the only 2 teams above him? The Hornets and the Wizards, 2 teams that we already talked about. And if you dig a little bit further, the Spurs are also giving up the 3rd most points per game to someone of Bam's scoring profile and the 6th most points per game to someone of his shooting profile. This is also a nice situation, kind of going back to our roots here, where we get to fade recent results. Bam, he's actually gone under this number in 7 of his last 8 games. That's not great, but look at the games in which he went under and look at those matchups, right? A lot of tough defenses that the Heat have played in this 8-game stretch, right? The Magic, the Clippers, the Knicks, the Suns, the Celtics, even the Grizzlies. A lot of their issues on the Grizzlies is at the perimeter, not the interior. They still have a pretty good interior defense with Xavier Tillman and Jaren Jackson Jr. The 2 games in the last 10 games that Bam went over, Wizards and Hawks. 2 bad defenses. Now he gets another bad defense tonight against the Spurs. Last time that Bam played the Spurs, this was this year, he scored 24 points. Definitely think he's capable of doing that again. If we only need him to get to 20, so the extra 4 points is just an added bonus. But I love this Bam play. If you even wanted to put a full unit on it, I wouldn't blame you either. I just wanted to be a little bit safer because you don't want to have too much exposure in terms of units risk. So that's why I put a half unit here. Next up, Warriors versus 76ers game. I'm actually going to have 2 picks in this game. Granted, they're both going to be leans. The first one is just a mainline play. Warriors minus 3.5. Best offered at minus 114 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. Another way you can use the app is just to line shop. Like if you want to bet a main line, just go to the NBA odds page, look at the main lines and see if you can find any discrepancies. Majority of books had this at 4 or 4.5. We were able to get it at 3.5 thanks to the Betting Pros app. The reality is, I really want no part of this game, if I'm being honest with you. There's so many injury concerns on the Sixers side. So confirmed going to be out Embiid. Obviously, he's going to be out for a while. That's a bummer. Nicholas Batum, DeAnthony Melton, Robert Covington. That's 3 starters that are confirmed out for the Sixers. And now Tyrese Maxey is listed as questionable with an illness. Keep in mind, Tobias Harris has been in and out of the lineup, also dealing with an illness. So why is this a lean and not a 1-unit mix slam? I just don't trust the Warriors. We've seen enough the past 2 years that in smash spots for the Warriors, especially away from home, you just can't trust them. So if you're looking at just strictly the matchup, yeah, the Warriors should be a slam here, right? It's been a tough stretch of games for the Sixers. They no-showed against the Nets. They no-showed against the Mavericks. Last week, they no-showed against these same Warriors. Granted, that was in San Francisco. They've had multiple games where they just haven't shown up. You can't really blame them because their whole team is banged up, and maybe they're just trying to get to the All-Star break. Regardless, it's not been a good stretch of games for the Sixers. I will admit, if you just look at straight the matchups between these 2 teams, there are actually a lot of matchups that do favor the Sixers. But again, this is really a no-touch. And unfortunately, I hate to be lame and say that. Obviously, I do want to give out something for each game in case you've got a Sixers fan or a Warriors fan in here or someone that just wants to watch the game, wants to have some action on it. I totally get that. But with the Sixers injuries, with the lack of trust on the Warriors, I just don't want to make it an official play. But again, I do think it's good. Next up, same game, another lean. Steph Curry over 4.5 made 3-pointers, best offered at plus 104 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. This is another lean, but I will admit another play that looks really good from a matchup perspective. And this is a positive EV play that I found on Betting Pros as well. It's a 4-star play, not quite a 5-star one, still a pretty good one. Betting Pros gives Steph over a 50% chance of cashing this prop, which if it's a win percentage over 50% and we're getting plus money odds, that's pretty good value. And again, it is a pretty good matchup as well. The Sixers are kind of similar, as I mentioned, to the Celtics, right? Bucks, Celtics, Sixers, drop coverage. Even without Embiid, they're not as aggressive in their drops, but they still play drop coverage, even if it's like B-Ball Paul or someone in the lineup. The Sixers allow a ton of above-the-break 3-pointers. Guess who's like the best player in NBA history at above-the-break 3-pointers? Yeah, that would be Steph Curry. The last time these 2 teams played, which was only about a week or so ago, not long, Steph made 8 3-pointers. Is he capable of doing that again? Absolutely. But again, due to the injury status of the Sixers and how untrustworthy the Warriors are, I'm leaving this as a lean as opposed to a full mix slam. But everything about the matchup screams smash play. So if you did want to lock this bad boy in and actually put an official play on it, I wouldn't blame you. So we're 8 picks deep. We only have 2 left. Before I talk to you about the last 2, I want to talk to you about the Betting Pros Discord. If you're looking to up your sports betting game, look no further than the Discord community at Betting Pros. You can find it at bettingpros.com/chat. I am in the Discord, and Betting Pros has gathered a team of expert handicappers in the Discord as well, giving you free picks for basically anything you can imagine. Free picks for NFL. Yeah, we only got one NFL game left. You're probably going to want to bet it. Something about it being a Super Bowl. The NBA, NHL, college basketball, player props, futures, live betting, whatever it may be, you can find in the Discord. Get in on the action, connect with individuals such as yourselves, sports betting enthusiasts, enhance your own betting strategy. Join us today in the Discord. Take your sports betting experience to the next level. 2 picks left. Both of them are going to be 1 unit plays, so no more leans here. And Mr. Mechanical, what's good? I appreciate you for tuning in. Next play, 9th one. Pelicans versus Clippers. I'm just taking not straight up. I'm taking the Pelicans plus 7.5. Best offered at -115 odds per the Betting Pros consensus. Another situation where I used the odds page on the app to find value here. Most books, actually I think every other book, at least last I checked, had this at 7 or 6.5. So getting it at 7.5 is pretty good. And I totally get everybody is probably thinking that you're crazy for fading the Clippers. They've been on fire. I get it. It's completely scary. But I really do think that the Pelicans are an awesome, awesome play today. And I wouldn't hate sprinkling something on their money line as well. If you wanted to put like a quarter, third of a unit on the Pelicans money line, I do think that they are an option to win straight up. So one betting strategy that I have that I admittedly don't talk about a ton, mostly because it doesn't come up super often as well, but it is a pretty profitable strategy, is whenever a team is coming off of a road trip of 4 or more games, you want to fade them in their first home game back, right? So let me repeat that. Any team coming off of a road trip that is longer or 4 or more games, not longer than 4 or more games, you want to fade them in their first home game back from that. I know that doesn't, like, the logic might be confusing, but if you poll NBA players, and I know someone that did this, shout out to my old coworker who put me on the strategy. Most players say that the most difficult game is not a long road trip because you're kind of just you're in it at that point. You're staying at hotels, you're bonding with your teammates. The first or the most difficult game is actually that first home game after a long road trip, right? You got to deal with kids or run a bunch of errands or just whatever it is. Players always say that that is the most difficult game. And even if you take out that fact, I still would like the Pelicans in this matchup, right? The Pelicans are one of the best road underdogs in the NBA. They're 9-4-1 on the road as underdogs. They also have played the Clippers really well recently. They're 11-2 against the spread in their last 13 games against the Clippers. They're 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 games in Los Angeles against the Clippers. Zion being questionable does make this a little bit scary, but even if he's out, I think the Pelicans are worth riding in this spot. So that's why I'm confident enough to make them an official play. Next up, our 10th and final pick of the day, Pistons versus Kings. I'm taking De'Aaron Fox over 26.5 points. DraftKings is giving this to you the best offered price at -105 odds. A full 1-unit McSlam on this bad boy. Now, this is another play, not really similar to our first couple, where we are fading recent results. Fox has only gone over this number in 4 of his last 10, and even more recently, has only gone over in 1 of his last 5. Now, Fox did hit this pretty consistently at the beginning of the year. So if you look at the entire season's sample size, it looks pretty good for Fox. He's just been struggling recently. I will say Fox's recent struggles have coincided with Sabonis, who's been just cooking recently. I know that because I was on his under 7.5 assists one game. He had 8 in the first quarter. He almost had a triple-double after 1 quarter. So you can explain a little bit away why Fox hasn't been as good recently. Either way, in this matchup, this is where you want to target De'Aaron Fox. This is about as good of a matchup as it gets for someone like Fox against the Pistons. We've targeted the Pistons defense. We've targeted lead guards against the Pistons all year, and it's pretty consistently come through for us. Hopefully it can once again tonight. The Pistons give up the most points per game to someone of De'Aaron Fox's shooting profile, the most points per game to someone of De'Aaron Fox's scoring profile, and the second most points per game to someone of his playmaking style. No matter how you slice it, any metric you look at, this is an awesome matchup for De'Aaron Fox. Looking at the Pistons' recent games against the Magic, which was the Pistons' most recent one, no point guard went over, right? Fultz, Cole Anthony both went under. Prior to that, 4 straight point guards had gone over their point total over-under against the Pistons. That includes Russell Westbrook, who had 23 points on an over-under of 10.5. That includes Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who scored 31 points on an over-under of 27.5. So even at a higher total, he cashed it by a pretty decent amount. So looking at Fox, even with his cold streak recently, he still attempted 20 or more shots in 6 of his last 10 games. He's attempted 15 or more shots in 9 of his last 10 games, with decent three-point volume shooting in that stretch as well. So the volume is there both from just an overall field goal attempts perspective and from a three-point perspective as well. So for all that, and because of this matchup, I love for Fox to go over. And that's all we got. 10 total picks, 6.5 units risked on today's NBA betting slate. If you're riding with me on any of these picks, make sure to put in the comments, put in the chat, whatever it may be, let me know. Make sure to subscribe to the Betting Pros YouTube channel if you're not already. Make sure to, if you're not already, also to hit me up on basically all of my social medias. Appreciate everybody for watching. And again, we're live starting next week, every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 11 a.m. Thank you, everybody who made that possible, and we will talk to you next time.